Today's lesson is all about plains and rivers. Of course, we need to discuss the objective of this lesson. In this lesson, we will find out or describe what a plain is. We'll classify the types of plains. And of course, to determine the 3 types of grassland. And the 4th one is to locate plains in the world map. And lastly is to determine the source of rivers. What is a plain? A plain is a large, wide area of land that's flat or almost flat. Plains are one of the major landforms on Earth. They cover more than 1/3 of the world's land area. Plains exist in all the continents. Plains slope gently, but never steeply. I made an animation so that you will understand further. For example, this is a line. As you could see, it slopes gently. It's considered as a plain. If the elevation of land is high, that's no longer a plain, because that's already considered as a hill or a mountain. Moving on to our lesson. One of the largest plains in the world is the Eurasian steppe. It is present in the continent of Europe and Asia. That's why it's called Eurasian steppe. It runs from the eastern part of Asia, as you could see, to the western part of Europe. Steppes are found in places with a temperate climate and very little rain. If you say temperate climate, it is a climate that's neither too hot nor too cold. This region is actually located from 30 degrees north to 60 degrees north, the equator, and 30 degrees to 60 degrees south of the equator. Another very large plain region, the Great Plain of North America, is located in this part. Moving on, we need to classify the types of plains. One example of a plain is grassland, desert plain, Arctic tundra, and the river plain, or known as the floodplain. Now, what is a grassland? Grassland is a flat land that receives enough rain for grasses to grow up to about 1 meter high. As you could see in this picture, the grasses can grow up to 1 meter high. Grassland is a flat land that's mainly occupied by grasses. The grassland of North America is called prairie and mainly used for raising livestock and wheat production. The Eurasian steppe and the Great Plains of North America are called grasslands. In North America, grasslands are called prairies. The temperate grasslands of South America are called pampas, while the Serengeti Plains of Central Africa are called savannas. This map is the map of South America, where pampas is found. And this map is the map of Africa, where the savanna is found. Moving on to our lesson. Now let's discuss all about desert plains. Some plains are deserts. Deserts are places that have less than 250 millimeters of rainfall per year. Meaning to say, there is scarcity of rainfall in this region. The average rainfall in this region rather, might be once or twice. The weather in this part or region is hot during daytime and it becomes cool at night time. The red lines that you could see here are the latitudes from 20 degrees to 35 degrees north of the equator and 20 degrees to 35 degrees south of the equator. So most deserts are found in these regions. The land is flat, but as the climate is dry, there is only very little vegetation. The only plants that can survive in these regions are those plants that can absorb water in deep places, or the plants that can store water. Same is true with the animal. The animal that can survive in this region is the animal that can store water in its body. One example of it is the camel. Moving on to our lesson. Part of the Thar Desert in Pakistan, in this part of the region, and the Sahara Desert in this region are examples of deserts. There are also desert plains in Australia. Sahara is the largest desert in the world. And as you could see, Saudi Arabia is mainly occupied by a desert. Moving on to our lesson. Arctic tundra. This is another type of a plain. Plains where the ground are frozen is called tundra. The frozen ground is called permafrost. The white color that you could see here is the permafrost. Don't you know that a permafrost can store carbon? And if it's melted, it gives out carbon dioxide. And to say carbon dioxide, it is one of the gases in the atmosphere that makes the world even hotter. It is one of the gases from the greenhouse. Permafrost can be up to 450 meters thick. In this region, Arctic tundra is very cold. It is found in North America, north of Europe, north of Asia. It circles the Arctic Ocean, meaning to say, Arctic tundra is located in northern hemisphere. Arctic tundra is a harsh environment that only the toughest plants and animals can live or survive. Examples of animals that can survive rather, are polar bears and wolves, while the plants are shrubs and grasses. Moving on to our lesson. River plain. River plain is also known as a floodplain. Many plains have rivers running across them. These are often called floodplains. Now, the rivers flow slowly across plains. Why? The main reason is that the land slopes less steeply in the floodplain. If you are going to compare the river in the mountains and the river in the floodplain, the rivers from the mountain flow very fast. Why? That's because of the gravitational pull. Unlike in floodplain, since the land slope less steeply, there is very less gravitational pull. Floodplains form along the banks of a river that has collected a large amount of water. For example, the Indus and the Nile River. Let's take a look at the Indus floodplain. The river erodes banks and leaves an area which is lower than the land around it. So, what is erosion? Erosion is the wearing away of land caused by the water. If there is a flood, the land will erode, making it flat. Most of the time, the river stays in its channel, in its course, in this part. But sometimes it floods, usually in the rainy season, making the both sides of the river flood. Now, how is floodplain formed? Floodplain is formed due to erosion. Erosion washes out any soft land, creating a wide flat area on both sides of the river. The flood water brings a huge amount of sediment to this land. If you say sediment, it is a fertile type of soil. If you say fertile, it is suitable for farming. It says here, this land, after it receives the nutrient-rich sediment is left behind, thus making the soil fertile. So this is an example of a sediment. This sediment is used by the farmers to grow crops, as it is rich and suitable for farming. For centuries or hundreds of years, people have used the fertile land of floodplains for farming, such as the Nile River and the River Indus. Even those ancient civilizations in Mesopotamia, they used the rivers as their settlement. They built their dwellings in this place. Why? Because the source of living that they have is farming, since river provided them water for drinking and also to irrigate their crops. However, in modern times, people have built settlements on floodplains, and that face the threat of flooding. So, living in a floodplain, there is what we call pros and cons. There is advantage and disadvantage. The advantage of this, the plant could grow healthier in this place. If your source of living is farming, then it's good to stay or build a settlement in this place. But the disadvantage, if you are living in this place, you will face the threat of flooding. Moving on, the low strip of fertile land located on either side of the Nile River. The river flooded during the rainy season. When the inundation subsided, it left the earth soaked and overlaid with a fresh layer of black silt. And that black silt is the sediment which is rich for farming, or it's suitable for farming. As you could see, the floodplain is found between a river and on this side or this side. Now let's proceed to our lesson, locating plains on the world map. You can use the map to locate the plains in the world. Look at the map below. Use the key to identify these regions on the map. This color is for tundra, and this color is for savanna, and this color is for desert, and this color is temperate grassland. Just like what I've said from the beginning of this lesson, tundra is found in northern hemisphere. So in this part, North America, that is a tundra plain. And the northern part of Europe and Asia is also a tundra plain. Now let's find out the savanna. Savanna is found in Central Africa, this region. There is also savanna in South America, even in this part, southern part of Africa and northern part of Australia. Now let's find out the desert. The largest desert in the world is the Sahara Desert, which is found in North Africa. Including Saudi Arabia, it is also a desert. As you could see, mainly occupied by a desert, even part this region and this region. There's also part in North America, South America, southern part of Africa, and in central part of Australia. Moving on to our lesson. Temperate grassland is found in this region. Like what I've said, they are found from 30 to 60 degrees north and south of the equator. This is the northern part of the equator, and this is also an example of a temperate grassland. And there's also temperate grassland in the southern part. So that's how to find plains in the world map. Moving on to our lesson, river. This picture is a river. Have you ever wondered where a river begins? The Indus is the longest river in Pakistan. It's about 3,180 kilometers long. Its plains make up 20% of the total land of Pakistan. Now let's find out where the river begins. The place where a river starts is called its source. Some rivers start in a lake or a glacier, but many rivers come from a spring. The source of a river can be either on this part, on this part, on this part, melting glaciers, lakes, springs, on this part, or this part. They form a stream. And if these streams join together, they are called tributaries. And tributaries will form a river. Now, I made a short video for you to understand further the sources of a river. This is a spring, my dear students. It looks like a waterfall. Spring is one of the sources of the river.
Another source of a river is a melting glacier from the mountain.
So those are the sources of a river. Can be spring, melting glacier, or a lake. Now let's proceed or go back to our slide. So a spring is formed when groundwater pushes its way to the surface through the hole or weak place in the rock. Meaning to say, if there is a soft rock, the underground aquifer will push that soft rock and it forms a spring. And spring will form a stream. When series of streams connected together, they are called tributaries and they will form a river. So those are the sources of a river. Can be a melting glacier, spring, or a lake. And that's all for today. And thank you for listening. Now let's proceed to our question time. Now what is a plain? A plain is a wide area that is flat or almost flat. It slopes gently but never steeply. Now, name the types of plain. Grassland, Arctic tundra, desert plain, and the floodplain known as the river plain. What are the three types of grasses? Grassland in North America is called prairie, and the grassland in South America is called pampas, while the grassland in Central Africa is called savanna. Now, how is floodplain formed? Floodplain is formed due to erosion. Erosion washes any soft land, creating flat area on both sides of the river. Last question that we have, what are the sources of river? Can be a melting glacier, it can be a lake, or a spring. That's all for today, and I hope you learned something today. If you have any questions, queries, doubt, you can ask me or leave questions in our Google Classroom. Thank you so much and God bless.